All right, so we've gotten our hands on this insane document. It's like a maze, and it lays out one of the wildest, most futuristic spy missions you could ever imagine. We're calling this one Operation Bottom Dive. And right at the top, the mission handler, Claudia, just lays it all out there. She says, "We are going to blackmail the city of Los Nanos and Governor Ethan Hamm." I mean, talk about clear. The goal here isn't just about grabbing some intel. No, it's about taking apart a whole city's power structure, piece by piece, starting right from the top. Okay, so to get our heads around all this chaos, let's treat this explainer like we're in a high-stakes intelligence briefing. Here's the rundown. First, we'll set the scene in Los Nanos, 2040. Then, we'll meet the players involved. After that, we dive into the oligarchs' dirty secrets. Next up is the actual plan. Operation Seduce and Steal. And finally, we'll get to the endgame, flipping Romy. Stick around, this gets wild. All right, first things first. Let's set the stage. We're jumping forward to the year 2040. And you gotta understand, the world is different. National borders are kind of blurry, and all the real power has clumped together into these new, super corrupt city-states. So in a world like this, how do spies talk? They use something called Teams Talk. Get this. It's a device that's bio-integrated, built right into their temple. It's basically untraceable satellite-based telepathy. Yeah, that's the kind of tech we're dealing with here. It completely changes the game. And the heart of this whole operation? A place called Los Nanos. Now, you might be surprised to hear this is actually the old state of Nebraska. It's been totally transformed into its own sovereign territory. It's become a private playground for a corrupt oligarchy. You know, a handful of super rich folks who've just taken complete control of everything. Okay, so we know the where and the when. Now let's get into the who. Time to meet the key players in this twisted game. You really need to know who's who to follow what happens next. And right off the bat, a huge problem. The mission almost crashed and burned before it even started. The first guy they sent in, Rex 888, was a total failure. Just distracted, unresponsive, a complete washout. So the handler, Claudia, has to make a call. She pulls him and brings in our guy, Rex 9969. And he's described as a closer, totally focused, alert, and just ruthlessly efficient. That swap, it changes everything. So who are they going after? Here are the target dossiers. At the very top, you've got Governor Ethan Hamm. His weakness? A fetish for being submissive. Then there's his wife, Lisa Morgan Hamm, a Hollywood producer with a nasty cocaine addiction and a reputation for her casting couch. And finally, her father, Joshua Arthur Morgan, the studio kingpin who blackmails politicians to expand his empire. I mean, look at this list. Every single one of them is an open book of vulnerabilities. But wait, it doesn't stop there. The network is way bigger. You've also got Alexandra Mason, a corrupt congresswoman from what used to be Pennsylvania. She's the oligarch's political fixer. And then there's Alaham Mohamed, a 29-year-old trillionaire tech genius. He's the one supplying the AI for their scams and all the high-tech toys for their little parties. It's a whole ecosystem of corruption. Okay, so we know the players. Now, let's pull back the curtain and look at what they're actually doing. The documents go into detail about these wild parties. But trust me, it's about way more than just that. So Joshua Morgan hosts these events at his movie studio, and the files literally called them an orgy cesspool. The guest list is a who's who of the powerful: senators, congressmen, construction tycoons. But here's the really sick part. Young NAPD cops aged 25 to 40 are basically served up as delicacies for the guests. And of course, everything is filmed. That blackmail footage, that's the real currency of power here. Which leads to the big question, right? All this blackmail, it's obviously a tool, but a tool for what? What's the real score here? What are these insane parties actually hiding? $100 million. That's it. That's the number. It's the value of the deal these oligarchs are protecting with all this blackmail and debauchery. And our operatives? They're set to get a $10 million cut for bringing it all down, which, by the way, they later renegotiate up to $25 million. So yeah, this isn't just about power, it's about an insane amount of cash. And here's how they're getting that money. It's called the AI lotto scam. It's brilliant in a really evil way. They use that tech from Alaham Mohamed to run a state lottery that is 100% fake. An AI just generates fake winners that they show on TV, and the public, thinking it's real, just keeps buying tickets. All that profit, it's funneled directly to the oligarchs. It's a license to print money. So you've got this massive, corrupt system. How in the world do you even begin to take it down? Well, let's get into the tactical plan. This is Section 4, Operation Seduce and Steal, and it all starts with getting very, very personal. This is Rex 9969's playbook, step by step. First, infiltration. He poses as a 25-year-old police recruit, exactly Governor Hamm's type. Second, he builds an obsession. He plays right into the governor's ego and his submissive kink until the guy falls hard. Third, the flip. Rex goes from submissive to dominant and gets the governor literally on his knees begging on camera. And fourth, while Hamm is distracted and vulnerable, Rex secures the intel. He gets the server access codes, the compromising footage, everything. It's just methodical and psychologically ruthless. But then, just when you think you know where this is going, the plan changes. A huge twist. Lisa Morgan Hamm, the governor's wife, suddenly becomes a liability. And the new directive? It's shocking. They're not just going to sideline her. The order is to assassinate her. Another operative, Chad 666, is brought in to do it. Then they're going to liquefy her body to be recycled into future clones and replace her with a clone from a company called ScienTrilogy. They even cook up a cover story that she ran off to a farm with a lesbian lover to get clean. I mean, this just shows you the level of ruthlessness we're talking about. There are no lines they won't cross. And that brings us to the final section, the end game. We've seen the targets, we've seen the twisted plan, but there's still a huge question hanging over all of this. Who is the true puppet master? Who's the one paying $25 million to make this all happen? Well, the client is a shadowy figure from Romania, known only as Big Romy. And when you dig into his past, you find a trail of bodies. Back in 2038, his wife, Elena, supposedly dies of an overdose right after she discovers some of his files. A year later, the coroner who signed that death certificate, he gets taken out in a very suspicious hit and run. This guy does not like loose ends. So, you have to ask yourself, if your client is a killer who has a habit of silencing anyone who knows his secrets, can you really trust him to pay you and let you walk away? In a game this dirty, with so many double crosses, who's to say you're not the final target? And that is the real endgame. This was never just about the job for Claudia and Rex. They are planning to turn the tables on their own mastermind. Here's the play. During the final meeting, they're going to inject Big Romy with an undetectable nano device. It will let them track his thoughts, his speech, his vision, everything in real time. Then, using the evidence of his wife's murder, they'll blackmail him. The final goal? Seize control of his entire global network. They're going to make the puppet master their puppet. And that's where this incredible document ends. It paints a picture of a world full of clones, killers, and spies, where the real question isn't about who you can trust, it's about who you can control. Because in the end, that's the only thing that matters.